you hear the word cell, what comes into your mind? Maybe the typical diagram you look in from the textbook, or maybe a lot of different labels to memorize, or just that chapter of your structure of a cell that you just need to memorize. But think of your cell as a city. You have your power plants, your mitochondria, different factories, your ribosomes, a command center for your nucleus, roads and transport mechanisms like your ER and your Golgi apparatus, and of course recycling plants like your lysosomes. You know what's interesting when it comes to this idea of a cell? People are using this entire mechanism to create systems beyond the idea of biology. Think of technology, think of architecture, think of city planning. All of these things require a good understanding of how systems interact with each other and how systems are enmeshed within each other. And what is the best possible way to enmesh such systems with extremely high efficiency? We are looking at biology to understand that answer. Cells are ultimate information processors, managing thousands of simultaneous tasks without failing. Doesn't that sound exactly like what AI is trying to achieve in this current day and age? So in today's session, we'll look at the structure of a cell and how the idea of a cell is impacting the world around us in this upcoming age of technology and AI. By the end of this lesson, I want you to imagine a cell not just as a diagram, but as living blueprints for the life we're about to live up and coming. Let's ground ourselves into the basics before we look into the applications first and foremost. A cell, as you know, is a structural and functional unit of life. Every organelle in there has a specific role that it performs to perfection. Your nucleus is like your control center. Think of it like a CEO's office. It sends out instruction in what form? In the form of DNA. Where do these instructions go from the CEO's office? Of course, the factories, where these tRNAs, rRNAs, and different amino acids come together to form different proteins. These products are transported throughout the entire cell, are transported using the Golgi, using the endoplasmic reticulum. Factory products are being transported through your roads and different transport systems. To support the production of these different products, you require a lot of energy. And in the cell, you get this energy in the form of ATP via mitochondria, which takes in whatever glucose that has entered into the cell and through a set of different processes breaks it down into carbon dioxide and subsequently has ATP being formed as side products. These ATP molecules, as you know, are extremely highly energetic molecules. And when these molecules break down, that's when you have this energy releasing. And that is what is powering all of the different protein formation and other systems within the cell. Similar to how a power plant powers an entire city. When there are harmful substances that are created or are brought into the cell, they immediately are transferred into lysosomes and peroxisomes where you have certain enzymes to break those down. These are like your waste management systems within your cities where all of the waste that is collected from each and every household is taken over there to either recycle, to either incinerate or take care of it in some or the other manner. And for all of this movement to occur, it does not just happen randomly. It occurs along a template which is set up by the cytoskeleton. These cytoskeletal elements are usually thin wires, thin pipes almost, that run across the cell on which you can have these protein molecules that are moving along. This is like an infrastructure in your city. Without a proper infrastructure, all of these movements that I just mentioned, from the factories creating products to these products being provided to consumers through these roads and transport systems, will not be feasible. Now, this is what practically a cell is like when it comes to structure as well as function. I'm not going to go into detail within this idea. This is not the aim of this section. But if you're interested in a deep dive into all things biology, this is a snippet of your introductory biology for grade 11th and 12th. We run similar programs for physics, chemistry, biology, and mathematics for grades 9th and 12th. And you can avail this by availing our free learning audit call, where you and I, we will sit together and analyze your learning challenges, goals, and aims to see whether the learning that you are doing right now is helping you out or not, and if not, how can it be helped out further. All of it is free. It starts there. The link is in the description down below. Check it out and make the most of it. We have had amazing case studies throughout the time that we have been doing this. And they can vouch that this will work for you. As I said, the link is in the description down below and you can check out our website for our other services. Now moving back in the lesson. Now the nucleus is practically responsible for all the decision making that occurs in the cell. What proteins are created at what time and how are these responses curated to external factors. If you have to think about what different technologies can take up this idea and transform it further, that is where AI decision-making capabilities come into the picture. Think of genomic AI models like AlphaFold that can take up information and predict protein structure just like that. These things are occurring systematically within the biological system. We are trying to mimic them. I'll give you more examples coming forth. Your mitochondria, the way it produces energy, think of it now on a larger scale. Think of it in a set of neurons. Which neurons to fire at what time and how to ensure, say within the brain, which is filled with neurons, how do you ensure that the brain does not take up 100% of the body's energy trying to fire all the different neurons? How does it ensure that only a certain set of neurons fire at a specific amount of time? That is where this idea of neuromorphic processing comes into the picture. Because the brain has mechanisms to decide which neurons to fire. When I'm speaking to you right now, my vision, my voice, my hearing, all of that is being targeted by a certain set of neurons, and only those neurons are being fired right now, apart from my other receptors that are taking in subconscious information that might require lesser energy at this moment. Whereas me speaking to you people, me interacting with you people on this session and spending my energy talking to you people is taking up the most amount of energy. This diversion or this control over where energy goes and which neurons fire is the basis for something called as neuromorphic computing or neuromorphic processing, which in the field of nanotechnology and material science is the most upcoming field apart from AI processors. Neuromorphic processors significantly reduce the amount of energy that is required by a system to function, and big players like Nvidia and Intel are working heavily onto it. If you're finding this kind of topic interesting, I would definitely suggest you check this out, because this will be the central focus of all the processing and the processing ideals for the next 15 years. Now, I want you to focus on the endoplasmic reticulum, the Golgi apparatus, and the lysosomes. All of these are part of the supply network of once these proteins are synthesized, how do we make sure that they go to the places that they need to? Because these organelles take up different receptors that are present within the cell, they take up different molecules to understand where to drive these to. And each and every step within the supply chain is carefully monitored. Similarly, supply chains within our real life can be monitored and can be controlled as well as automated using different techniques. Machine learning in particular can also help us ensure that we take the shortest amount of time, path, as well as the least amount of energy to get the most amount of supply done. So in the terms of AI, your endoplasmic reticulum kind of acts as a supply chain AI, which optimizes movements of goods. Golgi, you can think of it as pre-processing pipelines, where your raw data is cleaned, modified, and packaged for use. And lysosomes can be thought of as your AI anomaly detection as models, where the data that you get is carefully screened, and anomalous data that you may find as harmful or not required can be edited out. The cell membrane is a pretty unique membrane. It's semi-permeable. It controls what gets in and goes out. Not everything can get in, not everything can go out. Think of that as data privacy. Not all of your data should go out. Neither should anything and everything enter your data sphere. You can see the parallels there. And cytoskeletal elements, the last thing that we discussed, is currently inspiring nanotechnology based robotics, because these cytoskeletal elements are almost always made up of small monomers which come together to form large strong polymers. So taking a small nanofiber and making it into a large big pipe can inspire durable materials for such robotics applications. So you see, we looked into the structure of a cell, but not just to understand the biology of it, but to understand how this biology can be used further into different spheres of life. Remember, science is always interconnected. physics, chemistry, biology, mathematics, and all of the other sciences that exist in the world do not exist independently. As long as we are working towards the betterment of the human populace, all of these sciences integrated, interwoven will be useful. This was your sneak peek at what we take at the introductory biology programs, where we take up this base idea, these deep dives that we do in other sessions, and link them to what is relevant today so that you get the idea to upskill yourselves. This is something we always do for all of our kids. As I said beforehand, if you're interested, we start with a free learning audit call. The link is in the description. And you can check out all of our other services on our website. I am Mihir of Learners Club, and I'll see you in the next one. Learn more at Learners Club.